The sun was just rising over the city, casting long shadows across the glass and steel towers. On the sidewalk in front of the tallest building, a small figure stood nervously, clutching a crumpled envelope and a tiny bouquet of wildflowers. The little girl's name was Lila, and she was only 7 years old. Her small frame looked almost invisible against the skyscraper behind her. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the mission her mother had given her. Her mother, usually strong and confident, was sick. The doctor had said she needed help, and there was someone important who might be able to make a difference. That someone was Mr. Harrison, the CEO of the company her mother had written to for assistance. Lila's mother had tried to go herself, but her illness made even walking difficult. She had hugged Lila tightly the night before, whispered in her ear, and said, "Lila, my brave girl, you must go. Tell him I need help. He will listen if you go." Lila had nodded solemnly, though her heart had thumped like a drum. She had never entered a place like this before. Now, standing in front of the revolving glass doors, Lila felt small and scared. People were rushing past, wearing suits and looking important. Their voices sounded loud and serious, full of words she barely understood. One man in a dark suit nearly bumped into her, muttering an impatient apology. Lila clutched her flowers tighter. "Mom's sick, so I came instead," she whispered to herself, trying to sound brave. She pushed open the heavy glass door. A cold breeze swept inside, carrying the faint smell of polished floors and coffee. The lobby was enormous. Marble floors gleamed under bright lights, and a tall fountain bubbled quietly in the center. Lila's eyes widened. She had never seen anything like it. A security guard noticed her immediately. "Little girl, are you lost?" he asked, crouching down to her level. I need to see Mr. Harrison," Lila said, her voice barely above a whisper. She held out the envelope. "My mom, she's sick. She asked me to bring this to him." The guard hesitated. "He's very busy. Are you sure your mom can't come herself?" "My mom can't walk," Lila replied firmly. "Please. I have to deliver it." The guard looked at her small, determined face and finally nodded. "All right, I'll help you." He led her through a series of hallways and elevators, all of which seemed impossibly large and confusing to Lila. Each step echoed in the quiet halls, making her feel even smaller. Along the way, she passed workers typing quickly at computers, talking into phones, and walking with serious faces. Lila felt a little out of place, like a bird that had wandered into a lion's den. But she kept going, reminding herself of her mother's words, "Be brave, Lila. Courage is not about being big, it's about doing the right thing." Finally, they reached a large wooden door with golden letters, "M.R. Harrison, CEO." The guard knelt down and whispered, "Stay right here. I'll tell him you're here." He disappeared inside, and Lila took a deep breath. She adjusted the bouquet in her hands and smoothed her dress as best as she could. Moments later, the door opened, and a tall man in a dark suit stepped out. His hair was neatly combed, and his eyes were sharp, scanning the room with a serious look. He looked down at Lila and raised an eyebrow. "And who might you be?" he asked, his voice calm but curious. I'm Lila," she said, stepping forward. Her hands shook slightly as she extended the envelope. "My mom is sick. She said you could help." The man took the envelope, surprised by her bravery. "Your mother sent you here." Lila nodded, her eyes wide and honest. "She couldn't come, she asked me to. Please help her." The CEO opened the envelope and read the note carefully. Lila watched his face, trying to see if he would say yes or no. She had no idea what to expect. All she knew was that her mother needed help, and she had promised to do her best. As he finished reading, he looked at her with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. He had never expected someone so young, so small, to come into his office carrying such courage. There was something about her honesty, her determination, and the way she spoke without fear that touched him in a way no business report or meeting ever had. He looked at the small bouquet in her hands. "Are these for me?" he asked gently. "No," Lila said, shaking her head. "They're from our garden, for my mom. She loves flowers, but she can't go outside right now." The man's expression softened. He glanced at the flowers and then back at Lila. There was a pause, a quiet moment that felt almost magical. Here was a little girl, so small and innocent, yet so brave. And here he was, a man used to controlling everything, suddenly realizing he might not know how to handle something so simple but so important. "You did a very brave thing, Lila," he said finally, kneeling to her level. "I think we can help your mom. Why don't you come in and sit while I make some calls?" Lila's eyes widened with hope. She nodded eagerly. She had come all this way, and now someone powerful was actually listening. She had taken the first step, and maybe, just maybe, her mother would get the help she needed. For the first time that morning, Lila felt a spark of relief. She smiled, clutching the bouquet to her chest. Outside, the city carried on as usual, but inside the CEO's office, something had changed. A small girl had stepped in, and her courage was about to make a difference. Lila sat quietly in a small chair inside Mr. Harrison's office. The room was huge, with tall windows that looked out over the city. Sunlight poured in, reflecting off polished wood and glass surfaces. It all seemed so big and serious, and for a moment, Lila felt even smaller than she did outside. But she held her flowers tightly and remembered why she had come. Mr. Harrison moved to his desk and picked up the phone. His fingers tapped the buttons quickly, his movements precise and practiced. Lila watched him, curious about how someone so important could do so many things at once. She noticed the piles of papers, the sleek computer, and the rows of awards lining the shelves. Everything in the room seemed to say, "I am powerful." Yet, when he turned to look at her, there was a softness in his eyes that surprised her. He had expected a child to cry or be scared, but Lila sat tall, her small chin lifted, ready to deliver her mother's message. "Your mother must really trust you to send you here alone," he said gently, finally putting down the phone. Lila nodded. "She said, she can't walk right now. She said you might help, and I promised I would try." Her voice trembled slightly, but her eyes were determined. Mr. Harrison studied her. He had seen many people plead for help, written letters, and made calls, but he had never had someone so young take matters into their own hands. Something about her courage touched him deeply. "Can you tell me more about your mom?" he asked. She works very hard," Lila said. "She never complains, even when she's sick. She always says, kindness matters more than money. She wanted to ask for help, but she couldn't leave the house. So, she asked me to come." Lila's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away quickly. "I promised I would." Mr. Harrison nodded, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. He had spent most of his life focused on work, on profit, on climbing higher and higher, but this little girl reminded him that there was more to life than money and power. He knelt down slightly, to be closer to her level. "And you kept your promise," he said softly. "That's very brave, Lila. Most people your age would have been scared." Lila smiled faintly. "I was scared. But I had to do it. Mom, she always says courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right, even if you are scared." The CEO looked at her, amazed. Her words were simple, yet they carried more truth than any motivational speech he had ever heard. He felt a sudden desire to help, not because of rules or duty, but because this little girl needed him to. He picked up the envelope again and read it carefully. The note explained the situation. Lila's mother had fallen ill and needed urgent medical support and temporary relief from her work responsibilities. It was polite, clear, and honest. The kind of note that could be ignored, but it had not been written by a child. It had been delivered by one. "Do you know what this says?" he asked Lila after a pause. I think so," she replied. "It says my mom is sick and she hopes you can help her." Mr. Harrison smiled, a small, rare smile. "Yes, that's exactly what it says. And I think we can help." Lila's eyes lit up. "Really? You will help?" He nodded. "Yes. But first, tell me about her. Tell me about what she likes, what makes her happy. I want to understand her a little before we make plans." For the next several minutes, Lila talked. She spoke about her mother's favorite flowers, the warm soup she always made, the stories she told at bedtime, and the way she laughed even when things were hard. Mr. Harrison listened carefully, taking notes quietly, but more than that, he was listening with his heart. "You know," he said finally, "it's amazing. Your mom must be a very strong person to raise someone like you. You are brave, kind, and thoughtful." Lila blushed and looked down at her flowers, shyly hiding her excitement. "She is strong," Lila said. "Even when she is sick, she tries to make things better for me. She never wants to worry me." Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair, thinking. This little girl had come all this way, alone, carrying hope in her tiny hands. It made him realize how often he had ignored the small, important things in life. He had been so focused on business that he had forgotten what real kindness felt like. "Lila," he said gently, "I want to help your mom. I need you to sit here for a while and tell me everything you know. Together, we can make a plan to help her feel better." Lila's heart leapt. She had never expected someone so important to listen so carefully, to care. "Thank you," she whispered. He smiled again. "No, thank you. You've reminded me how important it is to care, even for people I don't know. And you've reminded me that courage can come in the smallest packages." For a moment, Lila felt the weight of her fear lift. She had taken a step into a world she did not fully understand, and yet she was not alone. She had someone powerful on her side and someone who now believed in the same values her mother had always taught her: kindness, courage, and hope. The office felt a little warmer that morning. Outside, the city continued its rush, unaware that in one small office, a brave little girl had begun to change the course of someone's life and perhaps even her own. Lila sat on the small chair in Mr. Harrison's office, feeling a mixture of nervousness and hope. The sunlight through the tall windows made patterns on the polished floor, and she watched the city below, thinking about her mother resting at home. She wanted her mother to feel better more than anything. Mr. Harrison leaned back in his large leather chair, still holding the envelope. He looked at Lila carefully, noticing the tiny bouquet she carried. "These flowers," he said softly, "they are very beautiful. Did you pick them yourself?" "Yes," Lila said, her voice soft but proud. "Mom likes them. She loves flowers, but she can't go outside now. So I picked some for her." She held them out a little, and he took them gently, smelling the faint sweetness of the petals. "They smell wonderful," he said. "You have a good eye for beauty." Lila smiled, feeling a small glow of pride. She had never been praised by someone so important before. But then, her smile faded, and she looked down. I wish my mom could feel better soon. She works so hard. She never rests. She always thinks about me and everyone else, even when she's sick." Mr. Harrison listened quietly. He had seen many adults ask for favors, many people write letters asking for help, but this child was different. She wasn't asking for herself. She wanted her mother to be cared for. She spoke with honesty and love, and that touched something deep inside him. "Tell me about your mom," he said gently. "What kind of person is she?" Lila took a deep breath. "She's strong. Even when she's tired or sick, she doesn't complain. She always smiles at me and says everything will be okay. She tells me to be kind, even when people are mean. She says kindness is more important than money." Her eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back. Mr. Harrison nodded. He could feel her love for her mother, so pure and unselfish. He thought about his own life, how often he had ignored kindness, focused only on success and numbers, not on people. And now, this little girl was reminding him of something he had forgotten. "She sounds like a very special person," he said. "And you sound very brave and smart." Lila looked at him in surprise. "Me? I'm just a little girl." "But you are brave," he said. "You came here alone, in a big building full of people you didn't know, just to help your mom. That takes more courage than most grown-ups have." Lila's eyes widened. No one had ever said that to her before. She hugged the bouquet closer to her chest and whispered, "Thank you." Mr. Harrison leaned forward, resting his arms on his desk. "I want to understand everything, Lila. Can you tell me what your mom's days are like? What makes her happy and what worries her?" Lila nodded eagerly. She told him how her mother woke up early every day to prepare breakfast, even when she felt weak. How she worked long hours, doing jobs that were sometimes tiring and stressful, but she never complained. She spoke of the small joys her mother found tending to flowers, reading stories at night, and always making sure Lila felt loved. "She loves people," Lila said quietly. "Even when they are mean or busy, she always tries to help. She says everyone deserves kindness, even if they don't show it." Mr. Harrison felt a lump in his throat. He realized how much he had focused on his own success, forgetting the people around him. This little girl and her mother were teaching him something simple but powerful: kindness mattered more than anything. He leaned back, thinking. "It seems your mother has taught you very well. You know a lot about love and courage already, Lila. And I think I can help her feel better." Lila's face lit up. "Really? You will help her?" "Yes," he said, smiling warmly. "I will do everything I can. And I want you to help me too, by telling me everything you know about her needs and what she likes." She nodded, feeling proud. Even though she was small, she realized her words and her observations could make a real difference. She talked about the food her mother liked, the songs she enjoyed, the way she liked to sit by the window and watch the sun. She even mentioned little things, like the teacup she always used and the blanket she kept by the bed. Mr. Harrison listened carefully to everything, jotting down notes. He could see how much thought Lila put into every word. This wasn't just a mission from a sick mother, it was a little girl's love and dedication, guiding him to act with care and understanding. "You know," he said finally, looking at her with genuine admiration, "I've learned something important from you today. You've reminded me that small acts of courage and love can change lives, even when we think they are too small to matter." Lila smiled shyly, hugging her bouquet. "That's what Mom says." For a moment, the office felt warmer, brighter, and calmer. Outside, the city continued in its busy rhythm, unaware that a small girl had stepped into a powerful man's office and shown him the value of kindness, courage, and love. Inside, a plan was quietly forming, one that would soon bring hope and relief to a mother who needed it, all because her brave little daughter had come. The office was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Lila sat in her small chair, clutching the tiny bouquet of wildflowers. Her legs barely reached the floor, but she held herself with courage, watching Mr. Harrison move around his massive desk with purpose. He picked up the envelope once more, reading the note again. Something about the words, written by her mother but delivered by Lila, struck him deeply. It wasn't just the request for help, it was the honesty, the love, and the trust behind it. "Lila," he said gently, "you did something very brave today. Most adults wouldn't have done what you just did." Lila's eyes widened. I was scared," she admitted quietly. "But Mom said I should, because she can't come herself." Mr. Harrison nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And because of your courage, I think I can help your mom. But we need to make a plan first." For the next few minutes, he spoke on the phone, arranging appointments and checking resources. Lila watched as the powerful man used his authority to make things happen quickly. What usually took weeks in his office seemed to take minutes today. Every time he finished a call, he asked Lila for input: "Would your mom like this, or do you think this will make her more comfortable?" "Yes," Lila answered eagerly each time. Her heart filled with hope. She had come so far, and now the man was not only listening but acting. After finishing his calls, Mr. Harrison turned back to her. "Lila, I want you to tell me everything about your mom. What she likes, what makes her happy, and what worries her. I want to help her as much as possible." Lila nodded and began to speak. She talked about the small things her mother loved, the way she enjoyed sitting by the window to watch the sun rise, the teacup she always used, and the warm soup she made for Lila every morning. She explained how her mother sometimes hid her sickness, smiling even when she was in pain, and how she worked so hard every day to make life better for them both. Mr. Harrison listened carefully, jotting notes in a small notebook. He realized that the details Lila provided were more important than anything in a business report. They were human. They mattered. "You know," he said after a moment, "your mother sounds like an amazing person. And you sound just as amazing. You've been brave and thoughtful, helping her even when it was hard." Lila looked down at her flowers, feeling shy. "I just want her to be happy," she whispered. "And she will be," he said. "Because you came here, because you were brave, and because we are going to work together." For the next hour, they created a plan. Mr. Harrison made calls to doctors, caregivers, and support staff. He arranged for someone to help at home, for medicine to be delivered, and for regular check-ins to ensure Lila's mother was comfortable. He even made small arrangements for meals and flowers, things he never imagined he would think about in a boardroom. Lila helped him by sharing little details her mother had mentioned over the past weeks. "She likes a blanket by the bed," Lila said. "And she likes the sun on her face in the morning." Mr. Harrison smiled, impressed by her careful attention. "Perfect. We'll make sure she has all of that." As they worked, Lila noticed a change in him. The serious, busy man she had first met was now gentle, patient, and kind. He laughed softly at her little stories about her mother and asked questions with real interest. For a child who had walked into a stranger's office that morning, this was more than she could have imagined. When the plan was complete, Mr. Harrison leaned back in his chair and looked at her. "Lila, you've done something very important today. You showed courage, honesty, and love. You reminded me that helping others is not about money or power, it's about heart. And because of you, your mother will be cared for and feel better soon." Tears welled up in Lila's eyes. She hugged her bouquet tightly and whispered, "Thank you, sir." "No," he replied with a small smile, "thank you, Lila. You've reminded me what really matters. And I promise, I will do everything I can to help your mother." The little girl's heart swelled with hope. She had been scared, yes, but now she felt proud. She had delivered her mother's message, faced her fears, and been heard. And most importantly, her mother's life was about to change for the better. Outside the office, the city continued its busy rhythm, unaware of the small but significant victory taking place inside. A little girl's courage had inspired a powerful man to act with kindness, and together, they had begun to create hope where it was most needed. As Lila prepared to leave, Mr. Harrison knelt down to her level. "Remember, Lila," he said softly, "even small people can make a big difference. And you have already done that today." Lila smiled shyly. "I hope Mom will feel better soon." "She will," he said with certainty. "And it's all because of you." For the first time that morning, Lila felt truly proud of herself. She had stepped into the unknown, faced her fears, and taken action for someone she loved. And in doing so, she had inspired someone else to care, to act, and to remember the power of kindness. The office felt warmer now, the sunlight brighter, and the air filled with a quiet promise. A little girl had come instead of her mother, and in her small hands, she had carried hope, courage, and the beginning of something wonderful. The next morning, Lila woke up early, holding her small bouquet once more. Her heart felt light with hope, but there was also a little worry. Even though Mr. Harrison had promised to help her mother, she knew that life was never simple. Her mother's illness had already made so many things difficult, and she feared that problems could arise again. At the office, Mr. Harrison was already working. Lila arrived, her small hand clutching the envelope as if it were a lifeline. He greeted her warmly, his expression softer than the busy, serious face she had first seen. "Good morning, Lila," he said. "Are you ready to help your mom today?" "Yes," Lila replied. "I want to make sure everything is perfect." Mr. Harrison smiled at her determination. "We'll do our best together." The first obstacle appeared almost immediately. A few of the appointments for her mother's medical care had been delayed because of paperwork. One of the caregivers who was supposed to visit had cancelled due to an emergency. Lila frowned, feeling worried. "Will Mom be okay?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Don't worry," Mr. Harrison said firmly. "We will fix this. Sometimes, things don't go as planned, but that doesn't mean we stop trying." Together, they began to problem solve. Mr. Harrison made more calls, spoke to multiple offices, and ensured that the caregiver would come later in the day. Lila watched him work, amazed by how quickly and decisively he acted. She also helped by giving small details about her mother's routine. "She likes to take her medicine in the morning before breakfast," Lila reminded him. "And she likes the blanket by her bed." Mr. Harrison nodded, writing everything down. "Perfect," he said. "This will help the caregiver make her comfortable." Even as they faced challenges, Lila did not give up. She reminded Mr. Harrison of tiny details he might have overlooked. She explained how her mother liked her tea sweet, how she enjoyed listening to soft music, and how she preferred flowers on her bedside table. At one point, the receptionist brought bad news. "Some of the medical equipment your mother needs isn't available today," she said. Lila's small shoulders drooped, and her eyes filled with tears. "It's okay, Lila," Mr. Harrison said gently. "We will find another way." He made more calls, negotiated with suppliers, and rearranged the schedule. Lila watched with admiration as the man who had seemed so serious and distant became focused on solving every little problem. She felt proud. Together, they were making a difference. "You're really helping, Lila," Mr. Harrison said, glancing at her. "Your knowledge of your mother's needs is just as important as my influence. We make a good team." Lila smiled, feeling a surge of confidence. She realized that even though she was small, her words and observations could change what was happening. She was not helpless. She was brave, and she could help her mother in ways that even adults could not. By midday, most of the obstacles had been overcome. The caregiver would arrive in the afternoon, the medical equipment would be delivered the next day, and the meals and flowers were all arranged. Lila felt a wave of relief. "See, Lila," Mr. Harrison said, smiling, "We faced problems, but we solved them. Nothing is impossible when you care and don't give up." Lila nodded, holding her bouquet close. "I hope Mom feels better soon," she said quietly. "She will," he replied. "And she will feel so proud of you. You've been brave and determined, and that matters more than you know." As they finished their work, Lila noticed something else. Mr. Harrison was different. He laughed gently at her small jokes, listened patiently to her suggestions, and even shared little stories about his own childhood. She learned that he had once been a child who faced challenges too, and that he had forgotten how important kindness and courage were until today. "You've taught me a lot, Lila," he said softly. "Sometimes adults forget to care the right way. You reminded me that every action, no matter how small, can make a difference." Lila blushed, feeling proud. She realized that courage was not just about facing her fears, it was about acting for someone she loved. And now, she saw that her actions were helping not just her mother, but also this man who had been changed by her bravery. By the end of the day, the plan was almost complete. Everything was set for her mother to receive care, comfort, and support. Lila hugged her bouquet tightly, feeling a sense of accomplishment she had never felt before. "Thank you, Mr. Harrison," she said quietly, her eyes shining. "I don't know what I would do without you." "No," he said, kneeling to her level, "thank you, Lila. You've reminded me that courage and love are stronger than fear. You've shown me that helping others is what truly matters." Lila left the office that evening with a light heart. Outside, the city lights were beginning to glow as people hurried home. But she walked with a little more confidence, knowing that she had faced obstacles, helped her mother, and inspired someone powerful to act with kindness. For the first time, she understood that courage and love could overcome difficulties. And she also realized that even small people could make a big difference when they refused to give up. The little girl had started this journey feeling scared and uncertain, but now, as she looked up at the glowing city, she felt proud. She had been brave. She had acted for her mother. And together, she and Mr. Harrison were turning hope into reality. The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains of Lila's home, lighting up the small living room where her mother rested. For the first time in weeks, there was a sense of calm in the house. The flowers Lila had picked days ago were placed carefully on the table, and the scent of warm soup filled the air. Lila stood quietly by her mother's side, clutching the bouquet tightly. She had never seen her mother look so peaceful. Even the faintest smile on her face seemed stronger than before, like a tiny spark of hope had been lit. "Mom," Lila whispered, kneeling beside her, "Mr. Harrison is helping. He's made sure everything is ready for you. You don't have to worry anymore." Her mother's eyes softened as she reached out to touch Lila's cheek. "Oh, Lila, my brave little girl," she said weakly but warmly. "You've done so much for me. How did you manage to bring help all by yourself?" Lila smiled, though her small hands shook slightly. "I was scared, but I remembered what you always say. Courage is not about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right." Her mother chuckled softly, her voice filled with emotion. "I am so proud of you. You've been my strength even when I couldn't be yours." Outside, a knock sounded at the door. Lila opened it to find the caregiver Mr. Harrison had arranged, ready to help with her mother's daily needs. Soon after, a medical team arrived with all the necessary equipment and medicine. Each person moved with care and kindness, following the plan that Lila and Mr. Harrison had carefully prepared. As the morning went on, Lila helped guide the caregivers, explaining her mother's routines and preferences. She instructed them on how she liked her tea, where to place the blanket, and which flowers made her happiest. Every small detail mattered, and the caregivers listened respectfully, impressed by the little girl's knowledge and dedication. By noon, her mother had eaten a warm meal, taken her medicine comfortably, and rested peacefully. Lila sat by her side, holding her hand gently. She felt a quiet relief settle in her chest. For the first time in weeks, her mother seemed truly cared for, not just medically, but emotionally as well. Later, Mr. Harrison arrived at the house. Lila ran to meet him, her face glowing with excitement. "He's here," she exclaimed. "Come see, sir. Everything is ready for Mom." Mr. Harrison smiled as he stepped inside, observing the scene. The small home was filled with care and warmth, everything arranged perfectly. Lila's mother looked up and smiled weakly but gratefully. "Hello," Mr. Harrison said softly. "I've heard a lot about your bravery." Her mother chuckled, reaching out her hand. "It's thanks to this little girl," she said, squeezing Lila's hand. "She made all of this happen." Lila blushed but felt proud. She realized that her courage, combined with Mr. Harrison's help, had truly changed her mother's life. The teamwork between them had overcome every obstacle, and the small home now felt like a place of hope and love. "Your mother is strong," Mr. Harrison said quietly to Lila. "And so are you. You've reminded me that courage and kindness can create miracles." Lila smiled, her eyes shining with happiness. "Thank you, sir," she whispered. "I just wanted to help Mom." As the day passed, Lila's mother rested peacefully. The caregivers moved quietly, checking her vitals, adjusting her blankets, and bringing her meals on time. Lila watched, feeling a sense of pride and comfort. Her mother's recovery was slow but steady, and each small improvement brought more hope than the last. At one point, her mother reached out and held Lila close. "You've done something amazing, my little girl," she said softly. "Not only did you bring help, but you showed courage, love, and responsibility. I've never been prouder of you." Tears filled Lila's eyes, but she smiled through them. "I wanted to make you happy, Mom," she whispered. "I wanted to help." Mr. Harrison, standing quietly in the background, watched the two together. He felt something deep in his chest, a warmth he hadn't felt in years. He realized that the bravery of one small girl had created a ripple of goodness that touched everyone around her. It was not wealth, not power, but courage, love, and action that made the true difference. Before leaving, Mr. Harrison knelt down to Lila's level. "Remember this moment, Lila," he said gently. "You've learned that even small acts of courage can create big changes. Never forget that, because the world needs people like you." Lila nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. "I won't forget," she said softly. As he left, Lila turned to her mother, holding her hand tightly. "Mom, we did it," she whispered. "You're going to be okay now." Her mother smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude and love. "Yes, we did it, together." That evening, the house was calm and bright. Lila placed her small bouquet on the table, watching the flowers sway gently in the sunlight. She thought about the journey she had taken from fear and uncertainty to courage and triumph. She had stepped into the unknown, faced her fears, and acted with love. And now, her mother was safe, cared for, and on the path to recovery. Lila realized something important that day: courage was not about being big or strong, it was about doing the right thing, even when you were small. And love, combined with action, could move mountains. For Lila, hope had turned into relief, fear into bravery, and care into lasting change. And in that small home, with a little girl holding a bouquet of flowers and a mother smiling peacefully, the world felt brighter, warmer, and full of possibility. Days passed, and Lila's mother slowly grew stronger. Each morning, she smiled a little more, and each evening, she felt a little lighter. The caregivers arrived on time, meals were prepared, and the flowers Lila had picked brightened every corner of the small home. Life was returning to a sense of normalcy, but with a newfound warmth and care that had been missing for so long. Lila watched her mother move around, gently helping with small chores, smiling as she made tea, and laughing quietly at a story Lila told. Seeing her mother regain her strength filled Lila with pride. She remembered the day she had walked alone into Mr. Harrison's office, clutching the tiny bouquet, and she realized how far her courage had carried them. "Mom," Lila said one morning, "I think everything is going to be okay now." "We did it?" Her mother knelt to her level and hugged her tightly. "Yes, my little girl. We did it, together. You have brought so much hope into our lives. I can never thank you enough." Lila blushed, hiding behind her small hands. "I just wanted to help," she whispered. Across town, Mr. Harrison sat in his office, reflecting on the past week. He thought about the little girl who had come instead of her mother, carrying courage and love in her tiny hands. Her bravery had touched him deeply. In his years of managing businesses, signing contracts, and making decisions that affected thousands, he had rarely felt the kind of satisfaction that this little girl had given him. He picked up his phone and called Lila. "Hello, Lila," he said gently. "I just wanted to hear how your mother is doing." "She's much better, sir," Lila replied, her voice full of excitement and relief. "She's smiling, resting, and even laughing a little." "Thank you, for everything." "No, thank you," Mr. Harrison said softly. "You've reminded me what truly matters. Your courage, your honesty, and your love have changed things for your mother and for me. I'll never forget it." Lila smiled shyly. "I'm glad. I hope she stays better." "I'm sure she will," he replied. "And Lila, remember that you've learned something important. No matter how small you feel, your actions can make a difference. Never forget that." The next day, Lila and her mother sat together, arranging flowers and laughing over a cup of tea. Life felt lighter, warmer, and full of hope. Her mother looked at her daughter, pride shining in her eyes. "You know, Lila," she said, "you've always been brave, but now I truly understand how brave you are. You faced fear, acted with love, and brought help when I couldn't ask for it myself. You've shown me and the world that courage can come in the smallest packages." Lila smiled, feeling a sense of accomplishment. "I just wanted to help you," she said quietly. Her mother hugged her tightly. "You've done more than help me. You've taught me to accept help, to trust, and to see kindness in unexpected places. You've changed our lives." Weeks passed, and Lila's mother regained her strength fully. The flowers remained on the table, a daily reminder of love, courage, and hope. And every so often, Mr. Harrison would check in, not as a powerful CEO, but as someone who had been touched by a little girl's bravery. One afternoon, Lila's mother invited Mr. Harrison to visit their home. He arrived quietly, carrying a small bouquet for her, and was greeted with smiles, laughter, and warmth. The small home had transformed into a place of comfort and care, filled with life and gratitude. "Thank you for everything," her mother said softly. "You've been part of this journey with us, and we are forever grateful." Mr. Harrison knelt to Lila's level. "No, thank you, Lila. You've reminded me of what matters most in life. Courage, honesty, and love, they can change the world, even in small ways. And you've done that for your mother and for me." Lila hugged him tightly, feeling the warmth of trust and respect. "I'm glad I could help," she said softly. As Mr. Harrison left, he looked back at the small home, thinking about how one small act, one little girl walking in with courage, had transformed so many lives. He realized that in all his years, this had been the most important and meaningful thing he had ever done. That evening, as Lila tucked herself into bed, she held the small bouquet close and thought about the past days. Fear had once made her hesitate, but courage had carried her through. She had faced uncertainty, taken action, and created hope where it had seemed impossible. Her mother kissed her forehead and whispered, "You've done something amazing, my little